Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's exclusive Ask Me Anything session. I'm your host, Khushi Mudgal, and I'm delighted to have you with us. Our topic today, inside the operating reality of global engineering and research hubs in the age of intelligent systems, is especially relevant as technology organizations rethink how work gets done in an AI and automation driven world. And in this conversation, we will look beyond the organization charts and job titles to understand that what truly drives execution, innovation, and scale inside large global engineering and research hubs. We will talk about how teams must be structured to solve increasingly complex system level problems, how learning models, leadership approaches, and internal operating systems need to evolve, and how intelligent tools and platforms are reshaping expectations of people, teams, and outcomes. This session is about understanding what actually works on the ground, how global hubs operate day to day, how research and engineering efforts stay connected to real impact, and what organizations must change to remain effective as technologies, tools, and talent dynamics continue to shift. And to guide us through this discussion, I am absolutely delighted to welcome our guest speaker for today's session. Joining me is Mr. Srikanth Vachaspati, Vice President and Head of People and Organization at Siemens Technology and Services Private Limited. It's an absolute pleasure having you, Srikanth, here with me today.
Absolutely, Kushi. Great to speak to you again. And hello to the audience.
And now about the profile. With over 3 decades of experience, he has held leadership roles across human resources at organizations including Wipro, Infosys, HP, and IBM. He currently leads the people and organization function at Siemens Technology and Services in India, supporting over 10,000 professionals working across research, product development, engineering, IT services, and business services for Siemens globally. His experience spans multiple geographies across Asia Pacific and Europe, and a wide range of HR domains from talent acquisition and compensation to mergers and acquisitions, HR consulting, and business partnering. Known for leading large scale cultural transitions and organizational change, he brings a deep and practical perspective on how people, systems, and leadership come together to drive long term impact. So it's so great having you, Srikanth, here with me today on discussing about this particular topic. And I am glad that we'll be able to talk about this topic in deep perspectives from you.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for that very elaborate introduction, Kushi.
I'm glad. So now, without further ado, let's get started. So to begin with, firstly, Srikanth, I would like to ask that beyond organization charts and job titles, what do you think actually determines whether large engineering and research hubs execute well and innovate consistently? And from your experience, what are those invisible factors that make the biggest difference?
Yeah, I think we have gone much beyond the formal job titles because every organization has their own job titles. And earlier, when people used to compare and look around, uh, there was some kind of a hierarchy which you could ascertain from those job titles, but that's no longer the reality. Or what's really more important is the nature of work that you do, right, irrespective of how you are called. And I think once it went to the nature of the job, even today people ask you questions not about what am I going to be titled as, but what is the role that I'm going to do, what is the impact that I'm going to have. I think once you move from these artificial ego titles to actual work of what you are doing on the ground, I think that brings about the change in terms of the invisible aspects that you talked about.
Right.
More importantly, what happens is in organizations which are scaling up, right? What is the positioning of the unit in India, the GCCs in India, the role that they do? What is the North Star for the unit, and therefore the values and the purpose of what you're trying to achieve? I think that messaging is extremely important to drive an organization culture. All right. So if it's just about executing a job, it is different. And to be fair, when GCC started in India, they were execution engines. but now we have gone much beyond the execution engines. So what employees need to know is they're not just doing a job or a role. The psychological safety comes in terms of if we perform high, we are going to get more meaningful work, which will get done by us. And when we talk about more meaningful work, it's not just you're the back end, but you're actually blending in and you are taking charge of the next phase of development of what needs to be done in terms of either the product or the service that you're providing. I think that is the starting point to say that you have turned the corner. You're no longer a back end organization, but you are in charge of what's going to happen next. And when that happens, right, this these factors make a huge difference in how people view you and how people view their careers.
Right. And you have beautifully, explained this particular aspect because definitely people, discuss about the organization charts and job titles, but actually determining the large engineering and research hubs and executing all of this is what becomes more important.
Absolutely.
So with this, we'll move forward to the next aspect that as you see that engineering problems are becoming more complex and system level nowadays. So how do you think should global hubs be structured to enable the true problem solving rather than task execution? And what needs to change in how these teams are designed and connected?
Yeah. See, I think even the organizations are moving beyond doing a product into a service oriented methodology where you're trying to solve a customer problem, right? So for GCCs, the biggest challenge has been, right, exposure to end customer data, end customer problem, because you always have a layer in between the developmental teams or the service teams in India and the end customer. I think
Right.
those lines are blurring, and you are actually now part of design think workshops with the end customer. You are looking at end customer problems and trying to solve them, and you are trying to create solutions. So once you move into this phase, right, you move into the next level of operation of operational efficiency, right? That's one aspect where uh, redesigning things around end customer issues becomes critical. The other aspect that also comes in is, do you have the right competency to be able to talk to the end customer
Yeah.
and work around the kind of problems that they have and to create the solution. For this, GCCs also need to evolve a couple of factors. One is it's not just the technical mastery, it's also about domain knowledge in the areas that you're operating in. So, domain knowledge and a sense of commercial aspects about how do we cost things and how do we. Uh, it's easy to get lost in the technical aspects and then try and create a fantastic solution which may not meet the end customer commercial requirements. Right. So I think a couple of these factors, domain and commercial aspects, coupled with technology expertise, is the way where uh, you are now moving into a complex system level thinking where you're able to make a difference. The way that organizations have gone about it and the way Siemens has also gone about it is we have created what we are internally grouped people from a competency COC perspective. So we have, in addition to the day jobs that people do, people also concentrate on getting more in depth into certain areas, whether it is technology or whether it is domain. And this becomes a shared depth in the organization. And once we create this shared depth and you're able to go beyond, right, understanding and configuring problems that can arise even before they do, right, that actually helps us to position ourselves in front of the customer, in front of the end customer also as people who can solution things for them in the right way. I think that is the ability to cross feed data that we get from one unit or the other into a shared expertise, and using that expertise to grow deeper. I think these are some of the ways where organizations which are global helps move more into solutioning than just problem solving.
Yeah, and the solution-oriented approach is always so much, structured and better than having the opposite approach, because it, of course, drives so much of change in the good places and lets us, align our transitions accordingly. So that's a great aspect that
Absolutely.
we're learning from you on this particular theme. And with this, we would like to move ahead on the next theme that, as we see that intelligent systems demand deep collaboration between engineering, research, and domain experts. So, how do you think that organizations can create operating models that encourage this cross disciplinary work at scale?
Yeah. I think so. When you look at intelligent systems, it's a blend of how do we use machine learning, AI, and human expertise, all of them rolled in together to create the right kind of an org structure, a right kind of an org to meet the demands of the future. Right. So when it looks to scaling, I think a couple of things come out very, very strongly. One, to be able to use AI and to be able to be more digital, I think there has to be enough effort to ensure that we have clean data, right? Access to data becomes very important for AI systems to work. Uh, and then the question is, how do you ensure that you are feeding the AI systems uh, in a very consistent and not just an ad hoc manner, but in a very planned manner, right? So I think that is one aspect. The second aspect that we're also looking at is the sh- this needs a metric, which is a collective metric. All right. So org design should ensure that you are measuring the right things. And there is another aspect in terms of speed and output, right? Uh, for example, when a human was depending on another human, right, there was always a time aspect that you put in as to when you're going to get the results back, right? But when AI systems come in, from a speed perspective, the human becomes the weakest link in the chain because the machines operate at a much, much faster pace, right? So when you start to look at throughput, you need to be prepared to manage input which comes in very, very fast, and how do you restructure work around that very clearly. So for managers who are going to be managing both bots and humans together, all right, it's a question of how do you ensure that you are able to manage throughput? How do you redesign work so the machine output goes to multiple people simultaneously so that you can speeden up the impact or the output, the throughput in a very right way. So orgs need to again reach think how they are designed in terms of how the teams work, in terms of how agile you can get in this kind of an environment of using intelligent systems and collaboration. So sometimes it's like a complete reset in some of the areas. And also, the intelligent systems and the machines bring about another aspect which is more important. It's not just about the work throughput, it's about the quality of work. So when you look at machines, at AI systems to do something like, for example, testing, the AI systems can test for fringe cases much more effectively. And therefore, your quality of work becomes much more better.
Yeah.
This we call a left shift in terms of programming. So you are able to arrive and create a system where you're catching bugs early. And because you catch bugs early, you're able to solve certain things at a much faster pace, so your end product quality also becomes that much more better, right? So it should not always be viewed in lens of productivity. It should also be viewed in lens of quality. I think that is where the systems design about what you're going to be using AI for, how you're going to integrate that with work becomes more important.
Yeah, Shrikant, and this is literally a perfect explanation and a description for how the actually these operating models can look forward to working together and also managing the disciplinary work at scale that we mentioned in the question. Because with this approach, eventually, and also with the solution-oriented approach, things will eventually get more towards the quality aspect, and we'll be able to judge them better and make the outcome accordingly the best one for all of
Yeah.
us. So, moving forward to the next question, that is, you see that traditional learning models often lag behind the fast evolving technologies. So, what do you think are those kinds of learning and capability building approaches which are proving most effective inside the modern engineering hubs today?
Okay. See, uh, traditional models, we used to have an aspect about the number of hours people are learning, right? You used to look at saying that if you have put in so much of number of hours into learning, that was what was expected. I think beyond the number of hours, what are you learning is also important, and how you're learning is also important. I think
Yeah,
from a Siemens perspective, what we have done is these are all our courses are not always designed top down by a central learning team. We have designed a system where a project a team at the end of the project or in even the middle of the project learns something new, right?
yeah,
They create a learning module and upload it onto our LMS, our learning management system. So others can learn from what you are deployed, right?
yeah,
So when learning is integrated with work, it becomes
yeah,
that much more easier for
yeah,
people to learn, right? So it's not, these are not isolated ones. It's not that you learn something and then you go and implement it. It's continuous. So there's a lot of micro learning that's also there. It's not always the large training programs and the courses. So designed micro modules which solve an immediate challenge that people need to learn about. I think that again really helps people to integrate things into learning. Now you do end up having bots and AI coaches, right? So you can ask a particular question and get an answer, right? uh, Also democratizing the your AI systems, where instead of going through a complete course, you can ask a specific question and get answers not just from your peers but also through whatever has been shared learning which is uploaded onto the learning portal. I think the speed at which you learn and relevant learning, because you're solving a problem which an employee has at that point in time. All of these are required to make sure that we are actually being very effective in terms of our learning. So I think the skilling aspect also comes in, right?
yeah,
Siemens, we have created a couple of years ago, in fact, something called next work, right? A concept called next work. So we anticipate what are the skill sets required 3 years down the line and 5 years down the line. What is the organization going to look like 3 years down the line? What skill sets are required at that point in time, where we have people with the respective competencies now, and how do we bridge the gap through upskilling? So reskilling, upskilling, not just for the sake of doing it but through a structured program of finding out the gaps and then filling those gaps also makes it relevant, because you tell people to upskill, they're worried about, is this going to impact my job? What if I'm unable to upskill? I mean, you're taking the negativity out by saying that these are the new roles that are going to happen by the year 2030. And therefore, we need you to pick up those skills now. People see this as a pathway to the future. All right. So I think this next work program has also really helped us in terms of looking at what are the roles that are required. For example, uh, I talked about solutioning as
Yeah.
answer to the first question. So
Right.
when you look at solutioning, what do you require? You require solutioning architects,
Right.
right? So we looked at it and said, how many architects do we as an integrated step? It works much better. That's been our experience in Siemens.
Yes, Srikanth. And just like you mentioned that with the reskilling and upskilling, which is so important in this fast evolving landscape, with all the technologies emerging so rapidly, so widely, and it also, is the need of the hour as we need to adapt to all of these advancements because it is going to make the work and the structure so much better as eventually the outcome will be so much great that everyone will be enlightened to actually see that and also accordingly see the change in the technologies that is evolving nowadays, so which makes us move forward to our next aspect where I would like to know from you that as you see that the leadership expectations are also shifting as tools automation and AI they are reshaping how the work gets done, so, how do you think must the leaders evolve their style, the decision making, and the talent practices to keep the teams effective and also engaged at the same time?
Okay. See, I think what's the biggest learning for leaders around the way things are shaping out is that you cannot micromanage, you cannot manage every input, right? So you need to shift your mindset to concentrate on the output. How do you get the best output and let people decide how they want to go about it in their own way? Set the parameters, set the boundary conditions, set the timelines, but not micromanage. Easier said than done because when you say leader, uh, what do you mean by leadership needs to get redefined?
Yes.
Right. So one is there is going to be a huge amount of scare because when you talk about AI now integrating into workflows, when you're reshaping job architectures,
Yeah.
there is always a fear about how is this going to impact me. So a
Right.
huge amount of empathy is required, a huge amount of working with the people to ensure that uh, their role changes, and therefore you're able to, as a leader, provide them a pathway to the next roles,
Yes.
right? Either through training, upskilling, or redesigning the way work happens. I think all of this in terms of honesty in dealing with people, uh, not saying that, oh, I don't think this is going to impact your job, but saying that this is how it's going to impact your job. And therefore, these are things that we need to do, right? Being very honest about it and also providing the pathway. I think the leadership expectation on leadership is very, very high, right?
Right.
And so when it comes to talent practices or what you need to do, right? You need to figure out both how people do work and also provide the support in terms of saying that how do we make the right kind of changes. So two-way communication becomes much, much more important. And most of our business models have been top down, right?
Yeah.
So now there is a question of bottoms up. The other challenge that also why leaders acumen is required is that all the people coming in now into the workforce, right, our younger generation, they are all digitally native,
Yeah.
right? They know more about technology. They don't
Right.
know the domain, right? So it's a question of what do you skill them on changes. Earlier, you had to skill people to do the work. Now they
Yes.
know how to do the work better than you do, right?
Yeah.
But then what they lack is certain amount of impact of what the work goes into, the domain in which they are working in, because it's not just purely technology. I think the leader's role changes into providing the purpose, providing the information that is required for them to do their job well, uh, and learn to get out of the way because they know technologically how to do things better. All right. So I think this is going to put in a lot of change in the way decisions get done, in the way the workforce works and practices. And I think that is where leadership clarity in terms of what is required and how do you articulate how you're going to go about getting that is important. So beyond technology, I think this is the most crucial make or fail aspect for organizations.
Right, Shrikant. And as nowadays you see, it feels like jumping in an ocean of uncertainty and talent as well. So the perfect approach for how we can, manage this effectively, along with the teams and also strategizing it and articulating it is the best way possible out of this. All right. So this makes us move forward to the last question for our session, which is looking ahead, what is that one organizational change global engineering and the research hubs must prioritize now to stay relevant in the age of intelligent systems? It could be something that many organizations may still be underestimating.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, what organization concentrate on is how do they articulate their North Star? How, for example, if I look at what we do, we created the four pillar approach of competency, agility, collaboration, and how to be innovative. Right. And then we created systems around this. Let me take an example of innovative. What we said was beyond your work,
Yeah.
can you innovate in the terms of what you're planning to do? All right. So we created a portal where we asked people to put in their ideas.
Right.
Uh, and then we assigned mentors who could work with them on those ideas, on
Yeah.
innovation. And that really created an entire sense of I can innovate. It's not just doing a job. How do I find a way to do it better, do it faster,
Yeah.
or do it in a very different way? So when we started to do this, we measured these outcomes of innovation as how many new IPs are we driving, right? How
Right.
many first filings are we doing?
Yeah.
And now, year after year, we are seeing the number of first time inventors have gone up, right?
Right.
And that really tells you that you are reaching the core of the organization and focusing on what is required for moving ahead. I think if you really want to control the outcomes in the direction in which the organization goes, right? We know AI adoption is coming up as a very serious aspect. It's a question of saying that when we are looking at innovation, because I have this platform of innovation, it's like how much of our innovation is on AI. I could measure that, right? So you are measuring two aspects. One is moving the organization innovatively, but also measuring on what and giving those focus areas the North Star, saying that let us innovate using AI, right?
Right.
One of the other things is about, whenever you have changes around in organizations, there is always a fear of failure, right? Because you're trying to do something that you're not done before. For
True.
Siemens in our organization, what we have done is in our annual awards, we have a segment which is Phoenix Awards. It's for people who tried something different and have failed, right? So when you start to celebrate failure, that again pushes people to say that it's okay if you fail, right? Because the more important thing is not about failing but learning from failure, right? And
True.
that again becomes how do you stay ahead, right? Is because you change the culture of the people. Because today it is AI, 5 years down the line, it can be something else, right?
Right.
Change is a constant. So the question is, how do you create an agile organization that can stay ahead of the curve of any changes that are likely to happen? So it's not just focused on one change, it's focused on the entire aspect of culture. If you can get that culture question right, right? Irrespective of any new changes that are happening in the future, your organization is agile enough to be able to adapt, and that is where the intelligent systems come in because you are now able to predict where you're going to go much faster. right? Because you have data and AI is going to help you do that. You can ascertain the gaps. So create the culture in the organization which is agile, create the culture where people accept change, create the culture where you are providing enough opportunities for people to learn, uh, and uh, and create the psychological safety net for people to feel uh, empowered to do things without the fear of failure. I think when you look at many of these put together, you are going to be staying relevant because you are going to be ahead of the curve in terms of what is going to be expected from you as a GCC from your parent organization. And when you stay ahead of the curve and you're able to prove that, right, your future path is always there in front of you.
Right, Shrikant. And definitely, culture is that most important element that will eventually drive all of the other aspects and make everything fall into place. So, we now know that how we can actually focus on the correct balance of information and also accordingly plan our action of work, because then accordingly it will help us, have a seamless strategic structure as well. So with that, Shrikant, it was really great sharing such thoughtful insights and also some real world perspectives on what truly drives execution, innovation, and scale within the global engineering and research hubs. Because with that, now we wrap up this exclusive Ask Me Anything session on Insight the Operating Reality of Global Engineering and Research Hubs in the Age of Intelligent Systems. A heartfelt thank you to you, Srikanth, for joining us today and sharing such thoughtful insights and real world perspectives. Your views on how leadership, learning models, and internal systems must evolve in the age of intelligent technologies literally gave us a clear, grounded understanding of what it takes for these organizations to operate effectively and sustainably.
Thank you, Kushi, for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed the questions and the depth of which you are trying to get to. And it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
It's absolute pleasure always speaking to you, Shrikant. And also, thank you for tuning in and have a great day ahead. This is your host, Khushi. It was an absolute pleasure hosting this AMA session. Stay tuned for more such conversations from TechGig. Until next time, take care and keep innovating.